What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. Legs, the chat is ready. Hit that intro button. Wake up, Legs. It's showtime. Everybody's ready to go, man.
Hey, man. Hey, hold on, people. Hold on. Let's break this.
He's sleeping.
We're gonna break it down for these people. This is how much you people mean to me. I just spent 7 straight days away from home. I literally pulled in the driveway at the same time my wife pulled in with my 3-year-old son. I reunited with him in the driveway. He's beyond ecstatic, and I had him for about 2 minutes. And I said, "Here, take him. I got to go do my podcast." And he is very upset, but here I am. I'm here for you guys. Last show of the week.
I love it. It is the last show of the week. We are off tomorrow. We had 4 shows already this week with this one. And it's going to be a good one because we're going to talk Pistons at the top again. I know this is the second straight time we're going to talk about them, but they got a statement win, their best of the season against the Celtics. And we're going to give a stock report now. Is Legs buying, selling, or staying put on all these key teams in the East and the Western Conference? Should be a great show. If you're new to it, hit that subscribe button. We do this 4 times a week live on here. You get to hop in the chat, be part of the show. And make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts because you can listen to us in the car on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Legs, let's dive right into it, man. We're talking about the Detroit Pistons. They were on a 7-game winning streak. Make that 8 games, 8-game win streak last night after a blowout win over the Boston Celtics. This was an impressive one. They got off to a really quick start. I think it was 13-2 to start. Boston was kind of on their heels. I thought they had a sleepy energy to start this one. Boston catches back up. Pistons extend the lead. Boston catches up. Pistons extend the lead again. That's impressive to me. 20-point win is impressive. What stood out to you?
Well, first of all, that it was wire to wire. I mean, wire to wire. Like, this is the biggest game these guys have played, really. I mean, it's the Celtics coming in. You got this winning streak going. People are starting to take notice. And everybody kind of saying, look at the 7 wins they had. Nothing really great in there. But look, that's neither here nor there because that's the first step of respectability is take care of the teams you're supposed to beat. They did that. They just had a 4-game road trip that they swept. So, hey, man, there's some attention paid to this game. And in fact, I was in D.C. last night and I'm doing Van Pelt after the game. And usually the way that works is you walk in, they got the slate of games, and Scott and myself and the producer and Stanford Steve, like we kind of talk about what game are we going to put right off the top of the show. And it was this game, even though we had a doubleheader on ESPN. Now it didn't help ESPN that Embiid didn't play and Wemby didn't play. Okay. So that kind of did tarnish the doubleheader we had set up. Regardless though, man, that's where these guys are right now. So I think, Adam, the fact that there was a lot of attention being paid, the Celtics were coming in, they're red hot, and it was wire to wire. I mean, literally at no point after the first 4 minutes of the game was Detroit threatened in this game. They dominated them about every way you can. And look, I could say some things about Boston. I just don't want to. Because I want this to be about Detroit. But the truth is, I mean, Boston, they were a little bit listless. Jaylen Brown didn't play. They didn't have it, man. And Jaylen Brown wasn't there. And they were predictable. I don't care. I'm not going to waste my time on that. If that's one of those nights they just showed up and didn't really give their best, I don't care. I want to focus on what I love about the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear what you love about them because we went deep on a lot of the guys the other day. We talked about Ausar Thompson, who's awesome in this one. We talked about Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham. But I thought other guys stepped up in this one in interesting ways. Ronald Holland, one. Isaiah Stewart, another. There was a couple other guys that we didn't really get to the other day. So is there, you want to talk about them? Is there anybody we didn't go over in our last show where we raved about the Pistons that you think deserves a special shout out from this game?
Well, did you say Beasley just now?
Well, we talked about Beasley, but I mean, he's obviously a story, 6 of 11 from 3, and he was in some big ones.
He's a second leading scorer. I mean, it's really kind of incredible. And he was the most dynamic offensive player in this game. Cade Cunningham every night is like the best player, and he's in control of everything. And he had another very good game. Didn't shoot it particularly well, but had a good stat line. This was like Beasley's night. I mean, he torched them. And it was like transition. It was they ran pin downs for him. He got some stuff. He got some stuff off the dribble on secondary offense. He got red hot, man, and he was having fun out there as their entire team was. I think the thing that stood out to me the most was you look at Detroit, they're not a prolific three-point shooting team. They don't take a ton. They're not going to really typically kind of bomb you out from there. They can have nights where they get hot. For the most part, it's not a huge part of what they're doing. Those other like 4 ways that you score, they're in the top 10 in all of them. And that by that, I mean second chance points, fast break points, points in the paint, and points off turnovers. They're in the top 10 in all 4 categories. So those are all 4 different ways, right, that you can generate offense that's not really related to running half-court sets and shooting threes. And they dominated all of those areas last night, and they're number 2 in the league in fast break points. And you saw, I'll pull up the numbers here and what they did in this game. Fast break points, 29-8 in fast break points. Points in the paint, 62-20 in points in the paint. Now, Boston is last in the league in points in the paint. So we should preface that. But their average is 40 and they got 20. So even by their standards, like it was just an anemic night getting into the paint. I credit Detroit's athleticism, quickness. They got a lot of dogs on that team that really like to defend. They took on the challenge. I thought Ausar Thompson played Jason Tatum very, very well. They're up the court pressure. It wears on you and affects you. It created opportunities for them. So I think for me, it was, this is a team that last night played every bit to their strengths, and they took away a lot of the things that Boston likes to do. And Boston didn't have great answers for what Detroit was hitting them with in these waves of athletes and pressure. And they were just coming at them. They didn't fear, not that you would fear anybody at the pro level. That's not the right word. I hate using the word fear, but you know what I mean? It was like they had a belief. They had a belief that they were going to beat this team. Like it was no big deal that the Celtics were in town to them. And I think that's a really good sign, man. I was very impressed with their performance start to finish.
Couple things on Malik Beasley. First of all, I always like when somebody finds, a great season or a great home. Like Norman Powell fits into this category. He's been around the league for a long time, been a good player, done some stuff, and then all of a sudden has a breakout year this late. Beasley, kind of a similar story, had bounced around, been a couple places. You know what he is. He can make some shots sometimes. Can you rely on him all the time? This year, he's been so consistent. And a couple things I like about him, he's able, you were mentioning transition. I think he's a big part of what makes them dynamic in transition because he's able to get to his spots quickly, like sprint to his spot. And when he catches it, no matter how much he's sprinting or sideways or whatever, he squares up and gets into his shot so quickly, about as quickly as anybody. And you see that in transition where it's like, all right, I'm twisted. I have to reach around, grab the ball this way, squares up and gets the shot out of his fingertips in half a second. And he's playing so confident. And even defensively, that was one of the things I thought about him with Milwaukee was you're going to have to go offense or defense. And if Malik's out there, you can't guard anyone. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. But at least right now, the team has this connection where he's just a value add. I don't think he's a negative in that way, over this streak. I
agree. Like, look, what's interesting is Malik Beasley's been on some good teams. Like he's been on winning teams. And he finds himself on another one, man. And this young group of guys that all of a sudden believe that, hey, why not now? It's been really fun to watch their ascension. They're 21-9 in their last 30 games. There's only 3 teams in the league. That's a 70% winning percentage, like over that time. That's over 2 months. The only 3 teams in the league playing 70% basketball for the year are the 3 best teams in the league, Cleveland, Boston, Oklahoma City. So that tells you like what they've been doing. Beasley, some of Beasley's numbers, dive in a little bit. Over the last 16 games, he's shooting 50% from the three-point line on 10 attempts a night. I mean, you don't get hotter than that. That's a whole month's worth of work. And he's basically shooting 50% from the 3, taking that volume. That's up there with the top volume three-point shooters in the league, and he's doing it off the bench. Played 22 minutes last night. Gave him 24 points. So he was a big story, obviously. I thought that Cade Cunningham, as he typically is, very much in control. You're watching him, and this is one of the few Detroit games that I was super locked in from start to finish and really taking a ton of notes and just watching him. He is strong.
He's incredible, isn't he?
He is so strong and just like, he's got such command. Like he knows exactly where he wants to go, when he wants to get there. He's not doing it super quick. He's not playing with like great verticality. He's just out there doing his thing, getting to his spots, getting downhill. He's got a great awareness once he turns downhill, Where'd the traffic come from? Where's the ball supposed to go next? And because of his size and strength, which is important, he can make pretty much any pass that needs to be made. And it's obvious that even though it's a bunch of young dudes kind of all coming together at the same time, he's the unquestioned leader of the group. Like they look up to him. He represents having potentially the best player on the floor on any given night. He's the only guy on the team that represents that level. And it's the polish and refinement in his game, along with, the young athletes that coming at you. So it's just fun, man. I don't know if they're top 5, but they're close for me, just in terms of sheer entertainment.
Well, I mean, in this moment, because they're playing so well, they might be number 1. I honestly have really enjoyed watching them this week. And, so I want to say about Cade Cunningham a couple things. Players go into the lab in the summer and they work on a lot of different things. And sometimes when I'm watching guys work out, they're working on the 5-part crossover sidestep move. And I always sit and think, how often do you use that one? Once a game? Maybe if you're even a star player, that's something you go to. There's functional skill. And then there's this like flashy skill that you use very, very seldomly. Cade to me is a guy that clearly excels at the functional skill and works on the functional skill, because a lot of the stuff he's doing, you're saying he's in control. It's not flashy. It's not, oh my God, through the legs, behind the back, shoulder shake, spin move. It's not that. It's just this functional way of using his body, putting it in position, getting to his spot and elevating. And that's the thing that stands out to me. I think it's why his growth curve is the way that it is you watch all the stuff he adds to his game. And sometimes you watch it game by game. Like he'll do something in one game, screw up, get a shot block, turnover, whatever. And he'll do the exact same thing in the next game, but make an adjustment and score. And it's that functional skill that has me so excited about. I love him. I'm so high on Cade Cunningham, but it's functional skill that stands out.
Yeah. If there's one thing I'd like to see him work on, I do think his shot could increase the trajectory. His arc is flat. And that's part of the reason he's a 36% 3-point shooter. The ball doesn't get up enough, in my opinion, when it comes off his fingertips. Like that's a nitpicky thing, but it's also like, hey man, do you want to become a guy that's a 40% 3-point shooter?
Right.
He's taking 6 a game. I'm not saying I want him to take 10, 11. I think that's too many. Like Anthony Edwards, I think that's too many for him, even though he's shooting a great percentage. Cade Cunningham, I don't think he's ever going to get to 10 a game, but you might take 7 or 8, but it'd be nice if he's making 3 or 4. And I think part of it is just he's got a little bit of a flat trajectory on his shot. But man, he just has this really super cool demeanor, totally unfazed, totally belongs with the top of the food chain guys in this league. And like I said, man, I think he gives them their swagger, because I think what they get is Cunningham pretty much every night bringing it. For the most part, Malik Beasley has been that certainly for the last month. And then Duran's very consistent. He's going to give you that like 12 and 12 type numbers. And then it's just like, who knows on a given night, who knows? And that's great. I think that's fun for JB Bickerstaff. It could be Thompson some nights. It could be Ron Holland some nights. Could be Tobias some nights, Tim Hardaway Jr. He doesn't know where it's coming from. Those other 3 guys are probably the most consistent. They're like the rocks of what you have to have offensively in this league. And then everybody else is just like, you're going to get minutes. Give me everything you have in those minutes. Defend. Some nights things are going to happen for you offensively. Some nights they won't.
Yeah. And Ausar Thompson, to me, it really reminds me of his brother. I know we talked about this the other day, but where the defense and athleticism pop, that was always there. It's starting to become more and more he's more of a predator defensively. Now you have to account for him because he's attacking you. He had 5 steals last night. But his offense, to me, is another thing where you can just see the foundation of a good offensive player. The shot is what it is, but just the ability to like do crafty things with the basketball, get around guys, power through guys. The foundation is there for him to take a similar leap to what Amen did this year. And I expect that from him, next year. I expect next year we look at Ausar Thompson and say, hey, he's a two-way player. He's starting to put the offensive part to this. And you saw it even last night in these little moments. I know he only had 7 points, but you saw it in these little moments where you're like, okay, that was nice. That was tough.
One of the things I loved about their team last night, Adam, were the examples where Cade Cunningham got into the lane, drew a lot of traffic, a lot of attention, and he would kick it out to guys that are not really 3-point shooters, and they had space to take the shot because Cade had done most of the work. And I love the fact that Ron Holland and Thompson in particular, they're not shooters. They know that. I love the self-awareness. Now, every now and then, Holland especially, he'll take one every once in a while, but they were eating up that space when it was kicked to them and there was a closeout guy running at them. Rather than go ahead and take it with Derek White or Drew flying by, they went right back into the gut of the defense with a dribble, and they came to two-footed jump stops, and they got strong stuff at the rim. Or in a couple cases, it was like a very late slash from the weak side, like from the wing into the paint. Cade found them off their feet really quickly at the rim. In a league where no one frowns upon anyone taking a three-point shot, you could stand out there and wait on those shots, and no one really say they weren't open. They're open shots, but there's a reason you're open. And I think right now there's an awareness with some of these guys that no, because that number, 33 threes in the game, that's a pretty modest number by NBA standards. If those guys, all of those guys collectively took the ones where there was more space, that number's probably up over 40. And it plays into the hands of the defense. I just thought that was really mature to be self-aware that my game is to catch it, put it down, and put pressure with my athleticism and my length and my jumping ability in the paint and get something up that's more my strength. It helps our team. I thought there was a number of examples in the game where they did that. They didn't just stand around waiting for the ball to come and then shoot it because you're justified to take the three because it's open. That's not smart basketball, and I saw a lot of that last night.
Having a leader in Cade that is so obviously, number one, he's obviously your leader. And then two, somebody that I think is easy to rally behind because he plays the right way. He's smart. You feel that sense of calm when he's out there. It allows everybody else, I think, to settle in. And two guys, I'm putting you on the spot. You might not even have notes for these guys, but I just thought they stood out to me last night. It was Marcus Sasser and Ron Holland, the young guys. Both of them, I thought, like when you start to talk about the Pistons, we're talking about them this year and this move they're on. But those guys project forward for them, right? Like, what are they building? What are the pieces they have? Did anything stand out to you about anything they did as projects last night that you say, okay, there's something there?
I'm not as much a fan of Sasser. I'm not exactly sure what he is or what he's going to be. I don't think he handles the ball well enough to be like a lead guard. He doesn't shoot it well enough to play off the ball. He does defend. He plays with energy. So he fits in well with this group.
Yeah.
Holland, I think, is a guy that I look at a little bit differently because he's just bigger, longer. Like I can see Holland taking on the challenges of the elite bigger guards and wings in this league. And Thompson could do it too. So you've got a couple guys that can do that. And Holland is so young. And you look at the numbers last night, Thompson and Holland combined for 8 steals in 46 minutes. 8 steals in 46 minutes. They had 13 steals as a team. And they were good steals. They weren't like the ones where Boston's throwing the ball over the gym. It was because they were up. They're constantly reaching and probing and poking at the ball when guys are dribbling it. And then they were almost always, in this game at least, the first guy on the floor was wearing a Pistons jersey. And a lot of times it was those guys, Sasser included. So I think I'm a little bit more on like the upside long-term of Holland, because at least I think you could look at him and say, that's what a lockdown defender looks like in this league. Like longer, bigger, wiry, strong. Sasser's offense clearly is ahead of Holland's. I don't know ultimately what the ceiling is on his offense, though, whereas I think Holland can continue to add to his offense, and he's already, I think, a different level defender, even though he's so young.
And when you talk about the Celtics, you need wings, lots of wings to be able to throw at them because they're so perimeter oriented. You've got to be able to switch. You got Harris, Thompson, Hardaway Jr., Cunningham, Holland. That's a lot of guys that have length to them. Not all of them are great defenders. I mean, that's not like a list of murderers row defenders. Some of them are, but it is a lot of bodies, so that when you talk about, can we just be in position to have length in front of the ball and hopefully try to contain them? That's what you get. So I like their team. They're so fun. They're on this run right now, 8 games. They've got Denver coming up next. If they get through that one, we might see an 11, 12 game win streak out of the Pistons this late in the season, which would be a great story. Real quickly, though, I want to ask you about the Celtics, because one of the things we talked about coming out of the break was, okay, the team's turned it up. Here's the focus. You could tell they've had a couple big wins. Last night, we both agreed watching that game that they didn't seem very locked in. And it stood out to me because if you told me, how's this going to go? I'd say, here come the Celtics post All-Star break. They're going to go on a run. We're all going to know this is the team to beat now. So dropping this one doesn't mean that can't be the case, but it was one where I was like, well, they laid an egg right after I thought that.
Well, there's no doubt we both saw the same thing. I mean, I think they were down 13-2 to start the game. Like,
and no energy, man.
They just didn't have it. I mean, you could see it. And I said earlier, like, they were never threatened. It was wire to wire. I know Boston made their run in the second quarter. They got it basically tied by half. Detroit immediately came out of the locker room. And I personally never felt like that this was going to go any other way than the Pistons. Just the way Boston was playing. I didn't care for it. Yeah. It's probably their worst performance overall when you add it all up over the last probably several weeks. And the thing is, like, I think they, you would think coming in, they'd be kind of like, you know what, man, let's show these young guys that everybody's talking about right now, with this winning streak, like what the big boys look like when they get serious, but they didn't get serious. And to Detroit's credit, man, I think they sensed that from the beginning and they got up in them and it really bothered them. Look, the Celtics, they've been playing unbelievable basketball for the last few weeks. They've gotten their act together. I don't know exactly what happened last night, why it looked the way they did, but that to me is not indicative of kind of what I've been watching for the last month.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out Beef Stew, by the way. Isaiah Stewart, always one of my favorites. He just gets physical. I do think Porzingis doesn't like that type of player. So I know Pistons fans want us to always mention him. We know what he is, but I like him. I like Beef Stew.
I got a question for you. Question for you because it came up on the broadcast. I'm curious. So there's, it's that time of the year. A lot of these broadcast awards come up.
Okay.
Came up last night. Do you think Peyton Pritchard and Malik Beasley are the two leading contenders for sixth man?
Man, I'd have to look at sixth man is not one that I have, like right in front of me. So I'd have to look and see who the top candidates are. But I don't know. I mean, that's not one that I like keep at the front of my mind. I see Peyton Pritchard has the best odds. Malik Beasley's right there. DeAndre Hunter switching teams probably hurts him. Nas Reed, interesting. Amen Thompson.
Here's the only thing I would say. Look, I love Peyton Pritchard. But I'm just saying, if let's just say, hypothetically, they were the two guys that everybody's going to decide between. I mean, when you look at the team that Peyton Pritchard plays on, and it's not
that hard to be the sixth man when your other five guys are all stars.
All that talent around. Now, don't get me wrong; he's had an incredible year, and he's shooting an incredible rate, and he's most nights has a major impact. And he did last night. He was actually 3 guys showed up. I thought Tatum played pretty well. Not close to his best. Derek White played pretty well, and Peyton Pritchard. That's it. They're the only guys that really showed up last night. So I'm looking at this going, man, this conversation came up on the air as I was listening to the game, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, man, if it really is these two guys, where would Detroit be without Malik Beasley 17 every night? With guys that we've talked about are challenged offensively, some of those guys, that are playing a lot of minutes. You got to get scoring from somewhere. So, you got Cade and then Beasley getting 17 every night. I just talked about the stretch he's been on over the last month, 50% from the 3-point line with 10 attempts a game. I don't know. To me, it's kind of like, man, like that story is so much greater almost than Pritchard on a team that won a championship. That's clearly got the best starting 5 in basketball.
You sold me on it. I'm in. I think you're right. And what Beasley does is like a part of the personality of that team in this meaningful way that I kind of like it. So I'm with you. I see it. And we saw this comment last time we talked to him. Why aren't you talking about Jaden Ivey? He's been out for 2 months. We're talking about the more recent trends.
Right.
He obviously is a piece of them in the future. He makes their team very interesting, but we're breaking down this week and this run that they're on, which has been incredible. All right. Any other final thoughts before we move on, Legs?
No, man. No. Who they got next? Oh, they got Denver.
They got Denver,
tomorrow.
Man. They got Denver.
Right,
Denver
tomorrow?
Back to back. Yeah, Denver's got Milwaukee tonight, Detroit tomorrow.
And that's in Detroit. So, man, that's another notch in their belt. We get to watch Jalen Duren do the counting on the bench like he did last night. Kept counting all the way up to 8. Now is he going to get to 9? That's the question, Adam.
Well, we'll see what happens, man. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to do a stock report for not all teams, but most teams in both conferences. I think we know Boston, Cleveland, Oklahoma City stock up. All right, we got that out of the way. We're going to do the other teams and find out if Legs is buying or selling on the other side. First, let me tell you guys about Fitbod. There are plenty of fitness influencers that are trying to sell you less for more. Fitbod combines the workout planning and tracking you need to stay consistent and make progress. This really is cool. There's all these new technologies coming out trying to replace the old way of doing things. Some of them work, some of them don't. I think Fitbod is an example of one that absolutely replaces or provides exactly what you need while cutting out all the things you don't. Because when you're trying to get into working out, you're trying to do new lifts, set new targets, or you just have new equipment that you're working with, whatever it is, Fitbod does a great job of customizing a plan that fits you and helps you stay consistent with the progress that you're making. And here's how it does it. You sign up for the app, you sign up for the subscription, and it asks you a bunch of questions about yourself, your goals, your fitness goals, how often you want to work out, high intensity, low intensity, how many minutes do you have? You put in all of this information, and then it gives you a tailored workout plan that makes sense, that helps you and gives you tools to track your progress so that as you're doing your workouts and inputting what you're lifting and how frequently you're doing it, it helps you set goals to say, hey, let's move to this. Let's go to this. It's a really intuitive app. It's super easy to use. Sometimes you think these interfaces, am I even going to understand it? Even if you've never lifted before, you've never seen the app before, it's such an easy user experience. It's going to help you set those goals, and then it'll send you push notifications, remind you, hey, tomorrow's a workout day. Are you ready for it? What do you need to know? It really is great. And they also have these videos. So if you're doing a workout, if it recommends a workout for you that you don't know or not familiar with, it shows you exactly how to do it in a way that you can't make mistakes. It's a really, really great app. I highly recommend it. So level up your workout. Join Fitbod today to get your personalized workout plan. Get 25% off your subscription, or try the app free for 7 days at fitbod.me/allnba. That's fitbod.me/allnba. Also, want to tell you guys about FanDuel. When the game tips off, NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you missed the first few minutes of the game or want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks. You could be like Legs. His game was tied at halftime. He knew the Pistons were going to win. He could have easily hopped on at halftime and said, I know how this game's going to go, and make the pick. You can also combine your live bets into same-game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA to join today. That's FanDuel.com/AllNBA for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older. Present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, back here, All NBA. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Legs. It's a nice point in time, nice moment in time. We have 3 days off, so let's might as well do something that has some legs to it, which is give a stock report for some of these key teams. And we're going to kind of go in order. Like I said, Cleveland, Boston, we kind of know those. We're buying those teams. They're doing well. They lost. I know Celtics lost last night, but we're buying both teams. So we're going to go straight to the New York Knicks. And I'll set the table by saying they're 6-4 in their last 10, but 11-4 in their last 15. But they do have 2 blowout losses to the Celtics and a blowout loss to Cleveland. So even though their record is good over their last 15 games, the games they needed to win, they got murdered in. So where are you at with them?
All right. I'm still going to hold. I'm going to hold.
Okay, he's on hold. Okay.
Not ready.
On hold.
I'm not ready to buy him. I'm not ready to buy me some more Knicks stock, but I'm not ready to sell either. And there's one reason, and one reason only. I want to see the impact, particularly on Karl Anthony Towns, that Mitchell Robinson can have defensively. Because Karl Anthony Towns, playing the majority of his minutes at the 5, is being absolutely targeted defensively with ball screens. It doesn't help that Brunson's not a great ball screen defender either. And they're putting both of those guys in a lot of action, and it's a problem. Now, I don't know how much Tibbs plans on playing those two guys together. Towns certainly was paired with Gobert in Minnesota, with some pretty strong results. He did go to the conference finals. It was awkward at times, but look, they had success. And I think it's better for him to be more down toward the baseline, not being that first guy that you come up the floor and you go hunt that guy out. Most fives in this league are going to be the initial screener a lot of times, and that's where Mitchell Robinson's going to be. And I was just talking to people, that kind of watch him defensively, and he's close to coming back. Moves his feet better. He's able to contest a little bit better. He's able to track guards if he does get beat better than Karl Anthony Towns. So that's the only reason I'm going to hold him right now. They've got one ace in the hole. Now, some people in New York are putting way too much stock in Mitchell Robinson. Like he's going to solve all these problems that we've seen against these teams they've getting blown out by. But I'm at least going to, hey, let's take a look. So that for that reason, I'm holding.
And it's not like you're adding a 3-and-D shooter, which is one of the easiest players to fit in because they're space the floor and they guard a guy. And it's like, okay, that's easy. You're adding a center and you're saying, oh, we're going to play him alongside our other center, which has always been the plan. To me, the runway is short for that. There's a learning curve. I'm selling. And the reason I'm selling is when you lose consistently to the teams you have to beat in the playoffs, I got to see it before I'm ready to buy. So for me, you're a little more optimistic. Little pillow talk from Legs here, wanting to hold, but a guy like me, I'm a little harder to impress.
There you go. Okay.
Let's go on to the next one here. We got the Pacers, 6-4 in the last 10, 16-6 in their last 22. Still losing to great teams, but they do have some good wins under their belt. They don't necessarily have some great wins recently, but they have a lot of good wins and wins against bad teams. So where are you at with them?
Yeah, I'm still going to buy them. I'm not going to sit there and, empty out, my account to go buy as much as I can, but I'm going to buy them. I still think they're trending up. They had a horrible start to the year. I mean, it looked like they were a completely different team. For the most part, they've gotten back on track. You're right. I mean, you look at their last 3 losses against Denver, New York, and the Lakers. You play 3 good teams and you don't beat any of them. They were all in the game for those. They're beating the mediocre teams. They do have some good wins under the belt from earlier, and they still have won 9 out of 13. I still think this is a team that's going to play consistently good basketball the rest of the year. So it's like that blue chip stock. I don't think it's going anywhere. They're not going to have a sudden downturn. It's not like we've definitely seen the best and it's going to just get worse from here. So that's why, when you look at, making these analogies to buying stock, I'm going to buy a little bit more of the Indiana Pacers because I think it's a solid investment.
It's looking like the middle of the East is going to be Knicks, Pacers, Bucks, Pistons in some order, which means those teams are going to match up with each other. And I just like that right now, I don't know who wins in any given matchup. Like you mix and match those teams against each other, and there's a chance you can talk yourself into any of them beating the other. So I like that we're here. With the Pacers, I think you're right about buying them just in the aggregate. But there's something about them that still makes me wonder, like you match up right now, Bucks versus Pacers. I don't know. So to me, I think I was more of a hold.
Yeah, they're sort of in, I don't know. I feel like both of those teams are like, they're good teams. They're certainly capable of throwing a scare into somebody because Pacers, I think it's more about their style. And with the Bucks, it's just incredible star power, right at the top. So and Giannis is capable of doing all kinds of things in a given night. So they could throw a scare into those teams, but for the most part, they're sort of in playoff purgatory. It's almost like there's only so much they're going to be able to do against Cleveland and Boston.
Yeah. Let's go to Milwaukee now, 6-4 in their last 10. Everybody's 6-4 in the Eastern Conference, 6-4 in their last 10. Legs, they have a real tough schedule coming up. Let me read this off to you here. Denver tonight, at Dallas, at Atlanta, Dallas, Orlando, Cleveland, Indiana, Lakers, Indiana, Oklahoma City, Golden State, Lakers. That's all tough games. Like all of those games, they'll either be underdogs or favored by 4 or fewer points. And that's for an entire month. So we're going to find out just how good they are, but are you buying or selling?
I'm going to sell right now, and then I'm going to plan on buying some later on.
Okay, I like this. This is a real schemer here.
I mean, this is really what it's all about, right? When you're trying to make money in that market, that's what it's about, right? Sell high, buy low, and I think you're right. That's a brutal stretch, and then you get through that, and here we go. Here comes some Sacramentos and Phoenixes and Atlantas and Phoenixes and Phillies and Miamis and New Orleans of the world. To finish New Orleans twice. Like that's sort of like the close to the year. So I think you sell now, and who knows what's going to happen over the next 10 games or so. And then you buy some right before the playoffs.
Yeah. You know what I love? Right before the playoffs. So right now, them and Detroit are tied in the standings. They're in the same spot. Last two games of the year, Milwaukee at Detroit, Detroit at Milwaukee. So they play each other twice to end the season, and that very well be. In fact, I think you would project it to mean something. One of or both of those games determining who gets the higher seed there. So I like how the schedule's shaken out for them. I'm in more of a hold, I would say, with them right now. I'm curious about Kuzma getting integrated and what kind of run they get on, but I kind of like your logic as well. Let's move on to Pistons now, 8 in a row, 5th in offense, 10th in defense over their last 15 games. We went deep on them. I think I know where you're going here.
Yeah, but I will say this. There are some people that might think, you sell it now. Is this as good as it's going to get right now? And for me, this is a long play.
Yeah.
Right? You buy some of this stock and you just stick it away and don't look at it every day. And look at it 2 years from now. Like that to me is why you were playing this game. You buy it now for sure. I mean, you can't see any way that they're just not going to continue to grow and get better because they've got all these young picks that are lottery picks that still have so much growth ahead of them in their offensive games. Clearly, they've got chemistry. They're a tough group, and they've got a star player managing everything in Cade Cunningham. So, yes, absolutely buy it, even though who knows what ultimately their season looks like in the end, right? I don't know what's going to happen this year. I just know that the long play is 2 years from now, I think they're going to be really solidly entrenched in that group in the East.
I'm buying them because I think one of the things, and I'm buying them for this year. Does that mean I think they're going to win a playoff series? You just laid it out. We just talked about how all those teams 3 through 6 are kind of working their way to the same tier, so I don't know if they're going to win a series, but I am buying that they can sustain this level of play, meaning that they're in the tier that they belong in, and that they're going to firmly be in that tier by season's end because all the things we talked about, they have an identity, they have a leader, they all seem to fit into their roles. There's a confidence and excitement that comes with being in this stage and having the momentum. So Pistons, not in the play-in. They're already 5 games up. I think they're going to hold there, and they might even climb up to 5, which would be really something. Next one, the Magic. They just lost by 40 to Cleveland. They're 1-2 to start a 7-game homestand. Their longest homestand of the year is currently underway, and they're 1-2. What do you make of this team?
Yeah, I'm not ready to sell it completely. I understand why you wouldn't want to buy it right now. I mean, it's just, they hit their peak stock price last year. Look, they had injuries this year, man. I mean, Wagner was out, Banchero was out. Banchero's not been the same since he came back. He's getting decent numbers, but his shooting splits aren't close to what they were a year ago. So I don't know if he's still affected by the timeout way. I don't know what's going on, but he hasn't been as good. I think he's a flat out stud. So, he's not been as consistently great night in and night out. But I mean, you would think that's going to return at some point, maybe even this year. So I'm not 100% sure. They're 2 games under 500. They went to 7 games in the first round last year against Cleveland. So it doesn't look like they're going to have something similar happen this year. They're clearly down from where they were, but I'm certainly not ready to just give up and sell it. So I'm just going to hold on to that for now.
Well, I'm ready to sell. I'm going to go full sell here because they are 4.5 games behind the Pistons right now in the play-in, which means they're going to have to go the hard route into the playoffs. Only a game up on Miami, by the way, or a half game. That means you're almost guaranteed to have to play the play-in and immediately go to either Boston or Cleveland. I don't think they perform well against either one of those teams. I think that's a 4 or 5 game series against either one of them. And unfortunately, that means your season. That's what we're talking about. If you're buying them, you think they're going up a level. If you're holding them, then you're saying, okay, they're going to stay versus Boston and Cleveland. That just looks like their season to me is looking like it's going to end disappointingly. And that's a tough one. Plus, I'm less high on Banchero than you are for reasons I've stated. I think he's an incredible individual talent. I hate how he applies those talents. And I think that the question we had coming into this year was, okay, Franz and Paolo, we like both players individually. Is that how you start? That's the cornerstone pieces. Is that going to work? You can blame the injuries this year, and I think that's fair. But we are going to finish, in my opinion, another year deeper into their tenure without a clear answer of if that's the right way to go. That's tough. It puts you up in a tough summer and a tough next year. So for me, I'm selling the Magic here with where they're at right now. Last one, Miami Heat. I don't have their last 10. Here, what do I have? 3 and 7. Whew.
Not only am I selling all of it, I'm pretty certain I never would have had this stock in my portfolio in the first place. So I never would have even picked up
Right.
some Heat stock. No, this is a hard sell. Take it while you can. Get out. Get
Yeah.
out. There's just
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just very little about them that I really enjoy watching. Um, Tyler Hero's had a great year. Give him credit. Pat him on the back. He's had a great year. But they're going to be. You talk about being led to slaughter. That's what their first round is going to look like. If assuming that they get into a 7-game series with one of those two teams.
Let's go quickly through the Western Conference here because I know I want to get you back to your son. I know you have a busy travel schedule over the weekend as well. So let's go quickly over these last Western Conference ones. The Grizzlies are 3-4 in their last 7, fourth offensive rating last 15. Some very high scoring games, including a 151 I think they just had the other night. So what are you doing with the Memphis Grizzlies right now? Are you buying, selling, or holding?
It's weird because I've seen them in person a few times. I really like them. Like when I've watched them, like, man, I like the way this team plays, but I think I'm selling. I think there are teams coming for them in the West. I think things have fallen into place nicely for them to have the 2 seed in the Western Conference. And I think it's maybe as good as it's going to get for them. And I've talked about this before, for whatever reason, John Morant, to me, it has lost some of his reckless attacking ability. And look, it's probably to stay on the court. I don't blame him. He takes really bad falls. The way he attacks and tries to go up over the top of bigger guys. He doesn't weigh much. He gets hit. He lands funny. He's had injuries. But it also, I think, is part of who he is. And I haven't seen quite that reckless abandon with his attack. And I think that kind of takes a little bit away from their team and that swagger that they have. So they're a good team, but I don't know that, it's not going to shock me depending on where this all plays out if they lose in the first round. So this might be as good as it gets for them. So I'm selling.
I do love this team, so it is tough for me to say this, but I am selling because I think there's a really good chance they are the 5 seed. They're the 2 seed right now, tied with Denver, but they're only 2 games up of the 5 seed Lakers right now. Lakers are on a run. I think it would be brutal for them to have the season that they had and go from the 2 seed to the 5 seed in the final month and a half of the season. That would be a tough thing, but I also think it'd be appropriate. So I've got them there. Let's go to Nuggets, 10-1 in last 11. They've had some really, they had that long win streak, but the thing you're going to remember is getting absolutely manhandled by the Lakers. So which direction do you go here?
Yeah, man, I was ready to buy me some, and I don't think I'm just going to hold. I'm just going to hold. Right. Let's just see what happens here, right? Because
that's right.
It was one of those maulings where you're kind of like, oh, man. They couldn't have come in any hotter. Luka hadn't really got cooking yet for the Lakers. But it was more about what happened on the other end of the floor. The way Jokic is bottled up in that game, and it's like there wasn't that next level on their team to kind of come to the rescue on a night when he's completely suffocated. It wasn't there, and the Lakers just absolutely manhandled them. So for me, it was that was a little bit sobering in terms of what that 9-game winning streak actually meant. So I'm going to hold. Certainly not. You got Nikola Jokic on the team. It's going to take a lot for me to sell, but for now, hold.
Well, how about this weekend ahead? They got Milwaukee tonight, Detroit tomorrow, Boston Sunday. So 3 games they'll likely be underdogs in. Let's see what they got. They need a
wow, that's an interesting one because you're sitting here right now. It depends how nervy you are, man. Because what you just described, if this was really a stock, you'd either buy or sell. You would not hold. You either believe and you buy now because their stock is going to soar if they win those 3 games. And you bought at the right time, or you should sell because they're going to think a lot less of them after the next 3 games, and you would have gotten out at the right time. So I guess I'm doing the dumb thing by just holding. I should probably pick a side on that.
I'll say 2-1. You know what? 2-1 for Denver. That's what. By the time we're on our next show on Monday, the chat can laugh at me if I'm
horribly
wrong.
You should be buying if you think that. We're going to be talking a lot about them if they do that.
I'm holding. Let's go to Rockets here. They've got the Jabari Smith question. He's back. Fred VanVleet should be back Saturday. I mean, they've really struggled without him. They've obviously had a good year. I think whether you buy or sell has to do with how you view what Fred VanVleet is going to provide them now that he is back reportedly on Saturday.
I'm buying, man. I've seen enough of this team. I really like this team. And I think when he comes back, I think they sort of restore the order. He's so important to them to give them some calm and poise because they're really good, really young, but they're a little bit out of control at times. They haven't been great lately, and with fourth quarter leads, which was something they were really good at earlier in the year. I think Van Vliet helps organize them again, and they start to resemble the team that we saw for that long stretch when everybody was really enamored with them.
And they get a little break because I think they got 3 days off heading into that Saturday game. So you not only do you get Fred Van Vliet back, but you likely get to have some practice time, some actual practice time where you can go over some stuff and sort of reset. And I think that's going to be very valuable for them. I'm going to hold. I think that they're going to get a boost from Fred Van Vliet coming back, but I also think it's going to be a tough finish for them battling the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Grizzlies the rest of the way. So I expect it to be a little up and down. Let's go to the Lakers, 8-2 last 10. Their weekend is interesting as well. They got Minnesota, then the Clippers twice over the weekend. So 3 really good games. Are you buying or selling right now?
Yeah, I'm buying, obviously. I mean, they first of all, their defense has been lights out for a long stretch. It's not just lately. They were doing that before they traded Anthony Davis. They've got some things figured out defensively. Clearly, JJ Redick's having an impact there because I think that is maybe the number one indicator about a well-coached team for me when I watch a team play. And I mean, I could go tonight around the corner and go to some middle school girls game, and I'll be able to tell you if they're well-coached based on how they play defense. Yeah. And you can just see they're buying into wanting to do that. And I didn't know they had a group that wanted to. So they're doing a good job protecting Luka. Obviously, he's just going to get better and better and better offensively. You would expect that mesh with LeBron to get just better and better. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think there's a legitimate shot the Lakers end up with the 2 seed and potentially end up in the conference finals.
So you're buying for sure. That's a big buy right there. If you're saying they got a conference final shot, but the 2 seed, I mean, look, they're a game behind in the loss column. Like it's right there for them. Who knows which one of these teams? I'm buying as well. They look good. I hate to admit it. They look good. They do have the 4th toughest remaining strength of schedule, though. It should be noted. So the Lakers will see what happens here. Their schedule does not get easy on them. The Clippers are 4-6 in their last 10. They have the 6th toughest schedule remaining. They have not looked impressive here over the last 2 weeks or so. So what do you make of it?
Clippers, as soon as the market opens in the morning, I'm selling everything I have. Like I'm going to literally be. It's like when you get lightning lane. When you get lightning lane,
you've been selling all year.
Lightning lane passes at Disney. We have experience with this. You have to be there at 7 a.m. ready to hit that button on your phone, man. Because there's only so many they give out every day. That's what it's going to be. I can't wait for the exchange to open in the morning so I can sell my Clipper stock.
Man, you might be first team all Clippers doubter. All year you've been low on them even when they had their run, but now they're not having a run, so I think it's fair. Wolves have the 2nd easiest remaining strength of schedule. Where are you with them?
Yeah, I think I'm going to buy them. And first I put hold, but now I think I'm going to buy. Looked a little bit more into the schedule. The schedule is favorable. And in general, I think I've seen some growth with like Jaden McDaniels. He's been really impressive with what he's adding to his game offensively. So I think that, and obviously they've had injuries. They're going to get guys back. So I think Minnesota is actually their best basketball of the year is probably coming between now and the playoffs.
I'm buying them. I've been buying them all year. I think they're a team that has their losses are close. So I think they're a team that is closer to turning the corner than people realize. The problem is they are in that 3rd tier in the West, which is with the Clippers, the Wolves, the Warriors. They're not going to break into the top 5, which means they're going to have a tough road, but I'm buying them. I just think they're better than what their record says. And then lastly, Warriors 6-1 in the last 7. They've held opponents under 110-4 straight, under 102 of the last 4. Their defense has been good. Are you buying Jimmy Butler's Warriors?
That's the easiest buy in the world right now. Yeah, I mean, they do look a lot different. They've got better energy, belief. Jimmy's fit in really well. He hasn't disrupted what they're doing, despite the way he plays, which I was wondering about. He's blended right in. Everybody seems thrilled with him. And the other thing about this, it's a great stock because even if they do tank, somebody will take it off your hands because of Steph Curry. You're always going to be able to sell that.
There's always a buyer.
The Curry effect. So you're always going to be able to sell it, probably get your money back. So I'm going to buy them, and I do believe that actually they are going to continue to play their way into relevance in the West and get in the thick of things.
Yeah, I'm buying them too. Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Steph Curry. Yeah, that's gonna do it. I think they're gonna be tough. Just like Minnesota, though, they are in a tough spot in the standings. But that battle for the 6th seed, the final seed out of the play-in, that'll be an interesting to watch because right now the Clippers are a game up or a half game up on Minnesota and Golden State. Dallas is right behind them with Sacramento. So I think Clippers, Timberwolves, Warriors. It'll be fun to watch those teams battle it out. All right, let's go to our final segment here, which is presented by FanDuel, our weekend slate. America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. And here's our slate. Tonight's the night, Legs, or tomorrow night, I should say. Nuggets at Pistons is a great one. Cavs at Celtics. That's the marquee. I cannot wait for that game. Knicks at Grizzlies, Clippers at Lakers. But I got to imagine Cavs at Celtics is the one you're going to be watching.
Oh yeah, for sure. Friday night. What a night, man. That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be one of those nights you gotta get your DVR recording some stuff because you're gonna, or league pass the next morning. There looks like to me there's 2 or 3 on there that could end up being great games.
Yeah. Well, Cavs at Celtics. Do you have a prediction for that one? I mean, that's a big game for both teams. Both teams need to get this win at this point in the season and have some momentum in that matchup.
I tell you what, I don't know. I don't know what was wrong with Boston last night. But that's not the team I've been watching for the last few weeks. It's certainly not the team I watched on Sunday take apart the Knicks. So I don't know. That was just one of those things, man. It's a one-off bad night, dog days of the season, and February. I don't know. Yeah. That's Cleveland going in there. Shoo, man. That gives me a little bit of doubt. It makes me think Cleveland maybe could go in there and get a win.
And then on Saturday, Kings at Rockets, Bucks at Mavs. Those are good, not great games.
Hey, you left my game off the docket, James. What the heck?
Hey, I was gonna say, don't say me, man. What is James doing? What's he doing?
Sixers,
man.
Well, it's because it's the Sixers Warriors.
Sixers Warriors, dude.
It's because the Sixers are involved. That's why, man. But hey, the good thing is I'm returning, sort of home. I mean, I lived in that area for 30 years. So I'll get to see some of my friends and whatnot, and hopefully we get a good game. They gave the Knicks ended up being a good game last night, which really surprised me. They were down 20 and looked like they were just completely lifeless. And Knicks let them back in it. We ended up with kind of a nail biter there at the end. Yeah. So hopefully they fight on Saturday and I get a good game. Either way, we get to talk about Curry, Butler, and the Warriors.
And then on Sunday, these are likely the games we'll be talking about on Monday's show. Nuggets at Celtics could be a great one. Wolves at Suns is always like a bit of a rivalry one, even though the Suns are dead. And then Clippers, Lakers, another one that'll be meaningful here. We'll see if we're burying your Clippers on Monday on the show because with a back-to-back matchup.
I like 2 of those games. I'm not big on the Minnesota Phoenix. Phoenix, for me, looks a little bit lifeless as well.
Minnesota might draw it out of them, though. Those games are always chippy. Like the Suns, Wolves, they just have this thing with them, but you're right. They're kind of dead.
Yeah.
Let's go to
Clippers. Lakers could be pretty good.
We got a couple super chats here. What do we got? Richard Rue says, can Boston win the championship with this version of Drew Holiday? Can't tell if he's hurt or pacing himself. It is true this year. He's taken more threes, less at the basket, not finishing as well. What do you think?
I think Drew Holiday is the beneficiary of great support around him. He will be really good when they need him to be. That's my opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong with the guy physically. I just don't think he has to do it every night. And I think also the fact that it's very unlikely they're catching Cleveland. I just do. If this was, there was a game difference between the two teams, I think you'd see Boston a little more urgency to go ahead and secure that 1 seed because it is really important against a really good team. They're not catching them. And I think as a result, Drew's got all this other support and shot makers around him. That's a bonus really with him. He's going to be much better as you get closer to the playoffs. I'd bet on it.
Yeah, I think that's right. What else we got? Garrett says playoffs are about adjustments. Buy, sell a coach. Is there a coach you buy in the playoffs? Maybe
that's another segment for another day. That's another segment for another day. I actually really like this segment. And actually, we could also do this segment just like that on individual players.
Yeah, I like that as well. So, James, mark it down. Hit that outro music for us, James.
Softy Adam would buy everybody. We know that. Come on.
You just bought everybody. I was holding and selling left and right, man.
That's why I said that.
Maddox, we had another one. He says, who are you taking of OKC Cavs versus the field? OKC Cavs versus the field. Boston is the field.
OKC and the Cavs together or the other
Yeah.
2018 for your champion. What are you taking?
I'm taking the field because I think Boston is equal there to those teams, and then I'm going to take all the other wild cards as the juice.
That's a great question because truthfully, there's only one team in the field that you really believe could beat both of those teams.
Yeah,
and it's Boston. So if you believe that, you would take the field, but it's not about the other 27 teams. It's just Boston.
All right, hit that outro music. James, Legs, I feel like this was a great week of shows, man. There were some great games. The NBA has given us some drama, and I've loved, talking to everybody for an hour, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week. I thought this was a great one. Everybody,
Me too.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Help us grow the show. Share our stuff on social media. Make sure you've rated, reviewed, and subscribed on your podcast apps, and make sure you are subscribed to this channel. All we're giving you is the All NBA show, so when you see something's live, it's something you're going to want to watch. Hit that like button for us on the way out. We'll see you on Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.